We will go ahead and get started here. So welcome to the Lunenburg Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, April 2nd. In accordance with the requirements of the open meetings law, please be advised that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. Oh yeah, I skipped some. I'll start over. I missed a beat because I was checking that I actually had the recording going. And apparently I can't do two things at once. In accordance with the requirements of the open meetings law, please be advised that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. The agenda lists all of the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those that are reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. Please address all comments to the chair. This meeting of the Conservation Commission will be held by Zoom at the link provided in the notice. And for anyone that may be joining us from live streaming, the meeting ID is 875-2621-4314. And I, as I always do, would encourage folks that want to join to go to our town calendar, download the agenda, and click on the Zoom link. It is clickable in the agenda. So I will start out with a roll call vote. Jenny?
Present.
Rich Bursch?
Present.
Jeff Viviano?
Present.
Mike LaRouche?
Present.
Chris St. Germain?
Here.
Pete Stella?
Here.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, we are calling this meeting to order. Any announcements from members of the commission? I see no announcements. Yep, now it's open for public comment. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes and on a subject matter under the direct jurisdiction of the commission. Comments about current agenda items are to be made during the comment period of the specific agenda item. Please address all comments to the chair. And during public comments, as we also observed during all of the hearings, when the members of the public provide comment, please introduce yourself with your name and your address. And for those that are not familiar with the Zoom interface, around the periphery of your window, there is a react icon. Sometimes you have to hover over the edge to see it. So if you would raise your hand, I will call on you. And if you, for whatever reason, you can't find that or whatnot, you can turn on your video and raise your hand. Or just speak up for a minute so that I acknowledge you, and then I'll circle back around and get you when the time is right. Anyway, anybody not seeing any hands for public comment either. So we'll move along. I guess I do have one thing to add. Sophia, our administrator, is not going to be able to join us tonight. She unfortunately got very ill. There's flu going around, and unfortunately, it seems like she's got that. So we wish her speedy recovery, and hopefully it's not too long. It's brief virus. We do have minutes from the previous meeting of December 4th that have been distributed. So hopefully everybody has read those. I am looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Is Rich for the motion, Jenny for the second. Roll call vote. Pete?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Jenny?
Aye.
And I for myself. Okay, very good. It was nice to see a dent being made in the backlog of meeting minutes. Okay, and moving along to new public hearings. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by David and Brenda Pajari for the construction of a driveway and a single-family home within the 100-foot buffer zone of Lake Shirley at 215 Sunset Lane. Do we have the Pajaris and or their representative here with us tonight?
Madam Chair, Greg Roy with Dilson Roy, representing the applicant. I think I do see someone with the name Pajari on the call, so I think the applicant is with us as well.
Excellent.
Thank you for your time. Is it acceptable to share my screen?
Yeah, let me just enable that. Okay,
And while I'm doing this, I apologize for the casual nature of my attire. I was outside all day today and have not made it home to to get out of my field clothes. So I'm wearing a hat to save you all from my funny looking hair.
it happens, Greg. It's all good.
All right, so we're here tonight for a proposed house lot on Sunset Lane, 215 Sunset Lane. Just so that you can get referenced, this lot is located, if you're driving down Sunset Lane from Flat Hill, you'll pass the when you bear right to stay onto Sunset Lane instead of going straight onto Robs Hill Road. When you go down Sunset, this lot is immediately on the left, across from the water. And it's a fairly steep slope, so there's quite a bit of grading that's proposed. There's been a recent house that was constructed on the first lot on the corner between Robs Hill and Sunset Lane. That's if not totally complete, essentially complete. You can see it that it's there. Some of you may have seen this if you've gone on a site walk. But that's the lot we're talking about. The Sunset Lane is, of course, on this plan is right in this area here. And the lake is on the upper side of this page. So we have a wetland system flagged right in this area, and Lake Shirley is just past it over here. So that's the water, and then we have a bordering vegetated wetland that borders on the edge of the lake in this case. The 30-foot no disturbance zone is located within the limits of the pavement. So there is no proposed work within that zone. The limit of the 50-foot no build zone is right here. So I'm trying to be steady with my hand like that. So we have a very limited amount of work between the edge of the pavement and the 50-foot no disturb zone that's proposed. But essentially all of the work for this application is outside of the 50-foot no structure zone. The limit of the 100-foot buffer zone is right in this location here. I have a bad hand here. So the front portion of the site, and again, approximately 50 feet of the site, is located within the 100-foot buffer zone. As you can see, most of the proposed structure, which is shown in red, is outside of the buffer. We do clip it with the front part of the house and a very small part of the front part of the house, and then a portion of the proposed deck. There's an accessory structure here shown, a garage structure that's completely outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. Essentially, this site needs to be lowered on the upper side of it where the proposed structures are going to be going. So we're proposing a driveway that enters from Sunset Lane in this location right here, and then sort of skirts the slope so that we can get enough length required to keep the grade below the 12% maximum required by the town of Lunenburg's driveway regulations. So effectively, that is what's driving the grading at the site. We actually did, I know I'm drawing a lot of yellow lines on this page, but we did do a land swap. We have gotten that endorsed by the planning board, where we grabbed a little bit of extra frontage. This triangular piece up in the front here was formerly with the abutting lot. We did a land swap with this triangle back here, and so that we would have access or more, I guess, easier access for the driveway, if you will, to come through the frontage of the property. So, there will be an on-site septic system that's up in this back corner, well away from the resource areas and well outside, in fact, well outside the buffer zone. And I think that's all. We are proposing, of course, erosion control that essentially wraps the site, on the low side of the site. And I think that is a high-level summary. I know some of you may have had a chance to go out and take a look at it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Oh, thank you, Greg. Just getting ready to go look it up, but you probably already know. Is
Oh,
there a endangered
there-
species?
Endangered species.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I wasn't prepared for that one. Hold on.
I just knew around Lake Shirley there was. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, let me, I'd have to look up the notice of intent. So, when did I stop share real quick and then, I can do that.
Okay.
Well, actually, I don't have to stop share. I can do it over here. Yeah, I'll need a minute or two here to find that.
It looks like maybe it's not.
So, all of our notices of intent have figures in the back, and one of those figures is
It looks like it's across the street and then across from the abutting parcel, but not
yeah,
either this parcel or across the street.
I'm not
Across
sure
the
if you're seeing.
street.
Are you
Yeah,
seeing the screen now
I am. Yeah.
with the notice of intent? Yeah, so let me just, so yeah, this is the natural heritage. So the site is in blue, and the yellow is the limit of the natural heritage area. So we are in fact
Okay.
outside of it.
Okay. Very
I think-
good.
There were two comments. I thought you were going to ask about the DEP, whether a DEP number had been issued, and in fact it has. There were two comments. The first was whether whether there was two applicants on the filing. There isn't. We've actually already put the A&R plan on record, so that land swap is already behind us. So there is in fact just one applicant. So we believe that was proper. And then the second comment was that they had a question about the floodplain. We have added that to the plans that we revised, I think, on or about March 3rd, and showed it. It's on the opposite side of the street. There is no floodplain on the side of the street where the work will be done. So there's no work within bordering land subject to flooding.
Okay. And then with the grades, I mean, after this is completed, how will the property keep water from just sheeting off and into the road?
Yeah, well, one thing I failed to mention, we are going to be restoring this with stake down straw matting. So
Mhm.
a little bit more beefy slope stabilization than we would normally do. But right now the entire property runs towards the road as it is. So with the with the
Yeah,
way
the
things,
current property is all covered with trees and, understory and whatnot, right? This is gonna take a lot of that down, if not all of it.
right. So if there's a concern with that, we could certainly look to put some dry wells in or something, but this does not trigger stormwater by either the Wetlands Protection Act because it's a single family house, or the local stormwater bylaw because we have less than 40,000 square feet of disturbance. So we're not proposing anything exotic here because it falls below those limits. But if it's a
Okay.
concern for the commission, relative to the wetlands, we're certainly willing to talk about it.
Yeah, it's a super steep slope there, right? And so my concern is that there's not a lot of water sheeting off of that that's, you know, not been absorbed or slowed down in any way that just, you know, goes across Sunset and into the wetland across the street.
Okay. So the good news is, this site is all sand and gravel. So we have really good soil for exfiltration. So I think that there's some
Yeah,
pretty,
that's-
there's some low hanging fruit we could use for by way of BMPs here that will get, you know, runoff from the driveway areas, for example, to infiltrate, runoff from the roof areas to infiltrate with a fairly, low profile type of solution. So I think we can certainly look at that.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks. Normally, yeah, everything you said would just not, you know, like you said, it's outside of the 50 even, from the majority of the work's being done. So it's not something we'd worry about, except that it's a super steep slope right there.
I get it.
Yeah. Chris, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, you sparked an interesting question, Mary, because Greg, what we're seeing on Flat Hill is they built a couple of houses with steep driveways, and those driveways are just feeding the water right onto the road.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
think that's where Mary's coming from, and I agree, it's a concern.
Okay.
Do we have other comments from or questions from other members of the commission? Rich?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Greg, do you have a call out for a filter strip at the end of the driveway during construction?
Oh, for erosion control?
Correct.
No, but we could.
Okay. Yeah, if we could have a fairly good filter strip of some 2 to
Trap
4
rock.
inch crushed
Yeah.
gravel, something, or trap rock, something in there to catch, because I don't imagine you're paving the driveway during construction.
I would think it would be towards the end. You're correct. You're correct. Yeah.
Okay. The ultimate goal is to pave the driveway?
So the applicant's on the call. We don't have it called for either way. So I'm not sure. And I honestly, Ryan Proctor from my office has been working directly with the applicant. But I would imagine, I would certainly recommend it on a steep slope like this.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so if we can have a call out on the plan for the erosion strip coming back in off the roadway to catch any of the dirt and sediment coming off the trucks and perhaps off the driveway is during construction.
Yeah,
And
loud
do
and
you
clear.
have a schedule for revegetating the slopes?
Well, let's see here. We first of all, we did a more beefy slope stabilization specification on the plan than we normally would. We do have a rather basic, as I'm looking here, construction sequence, but the intention would be to get those things stabilized as soon as they're built, and not let them sit there exposed. I mean, the good news is it's not a glacial till material here, so it's a pretty granular sand. So I'm not saying you're not going to get any washing, right? But you're not going to get the fines that come out of a glacial till material, like you would in that type of material. So, but the intention would be to get those excavated and shaped and stabilized as fast as possible. And we can
Okay, and the
memorialize that.
erosion mats, are they impregnated with seed, or you're gonna seed
Um,
and then put the erosion mats over the top?
Typically we would seed and then roll the mats and stake them down.
Okay. So you're gonna loam over the sandy fill that's there?
Right. Loam, seed, and then, instead of mulch, instead of the mulch would be the in this case would be the rolled stake down straw matting.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I would recommend that we do have a sequence that the slopes are loamed, seeded, and erosion matting putting down as soon as they have been the grade has been finalized and cut in, and the driveway is in use for construction.
Okay.
I'd hate to see it, all of a sudden you get it opened up and it stays open for months on end and we start to get some nasty weather, which we could get, we may not get anything, so.
Only if our luck changes.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that would be a recommendation. So add the erosion strip at the end of the driveway and sequence that the slopes are loam seeded and the erosion protections put down as soon as the grade is done.
Okay.
And that would be it, Madam Chair, at this point. Thank you very much.
Very good suggestions there. I appreciate that, Rich. Do we have questions or comments from other members of the commission? And I am not seeing any. Do we have questions or comments from members of the public? And I'm not seeing any there either. So Greg, I did ask if you could look at mitigate some mitigations for runoff. So would you be willing to continue to the next meeting? Would that give you enough time to go look at that for us?
Yeah, that's plenty of time. Yeah,
Okay.
we can definitely, so I heard, runoff mitigation, a tracking strip, for, vehicle tracking strip during construction, and updated construction sequencing, to memorialize, slope stabilization immediately after it's, immediately after it's constructed.
That's what I heard as well.
Okay. Good news is you tape these meetings, so it's a lifesaver sometimes for us consultants to go back and look. But yeah, we'll get those done.
Okay, the next meeting is April 16th. So I'm looking for a motion from the commission to continue.
Can
to
I
April
actually,
Oh, go ahead.
can I say one thing first?
Yeah.
This is gonna relate to the next one that I'm in, but to the next meeting that I'm presenting on too, but there's a general condition that you folks have been putting in your orders relative to stormwater management and the preparation of a SWIP. Compliance with the NIPD's EPA NIPD's permitting.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it's phrased, it does not have the words if applicable. It just says it has to be submitted. And that's problematic on small sites like this where EPA SWIPs do not come into play. So EPA SWIPs are only triggered if you have greater than 40,000 square or greater than an acre of land disturbance. So we won't be able to, so I just keep that in mind, for this. I feel like you need to, I guess it's your purview to put whatever condition you want in a decision, but it seems to me like you need to put a if applicable or if
Caveat on there.
because it doesn't, there's projects we've run into in the, recently where it's a small project, it doesn't rise to the level of EPA SWIP permitting.
I'll make a note
Just
of it,
a-
Greg. Thanks for
just a
the, yeah,
thought.
thanks for the suggestion. It's always welcome. As you say, it's up to the commission about whether we take it on board or not, but I appreciate you offering it. There's
bet.
always room to improve it everywhere, right? So thank you. All right, so now I'm looking for a motion to continue to April 16th.
So moved.
Second,
Okay. I heard Rich and then I heard Mike as a second. Did I get that right?
sounds good.
Okay, roll call vote. Jenny,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jeff. Oh, I almost heard Jeff, but I don't think I did.
Oh, sorry about that. That's an aye.
Thank you, Jeff. Mike,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Pete.
Aye.
All right, thank you. See this one again on April 16th. All right, moving along. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Proctor Mass Ave Realty Trust for the extension of an existing paved driveway, the construction of a single-family dwelling, and the removal of vegetation within the 100 50 and 30-foot wetland buffer at 1523 Mass Ave. And do we have applicant and or the representative here with us tonight?
Madam Chair, Greg Roy with Dilson Roy. I'm representing the applicant this evening, which is the Proctor, I'm not gonna get it right, the Proctor family. Dan
Yeah,
Proctor. Dan, I think, is on the call, perhaps Gene as well. Officially, it's Proctor Mass Ave Realty Trust. This property is located on Mass Ave, on the northerly side of Mass Ave. And it's directly adjacent to the large wetland system that sits out back, that's within the I think within the Cowdery conservation area. So if you can kind of familiarize, when you come around the big bend coming out of town, you kind of go down that low point, you cross the big wetland area. Just before that, on the left, that's the land area that we're talking about. There is an existing house. The Dan and Jean Proctor live at 1529 Mass Ave, which shares the driveway with this lot. So the intention, this one's kind of a fun one for me. He told me I could share it. While the applicant is Mass Ave Realty Trust, the intention here is for Ryan Proctor, who you're familiar with, to build his house here. So this is kind of a fun one for me to represent. He asked that I represent him because he wanted to keep a little bit of an arm's length on this one. But there is a lot that has been in existence for decades immediately adjacent. It has frontage on Mass Ave, but it has historically shared a driveway with 1529 Mass Ave. I think up until around circa 2000, there was actually a house on this
Greg,
property.
I'm
Oh.
sorry to interrupt you, but you usually do these narratives while you're showing us
Oh, I'm not
plans.
sharing my screen. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I didn't want you to get too far down
Thank
the,
you. I forgot. I forgot I stopped my
That's
share.
okay.
I'm sorry about that. How's that?
there we go.
All right. I'm sorry. I was pointing at the screen, and now understanding that you can't see the thing I'm saying. Okay. So Mass Ave is actually sort of down here off the page, if you will, a little bit even further. The driveway comes in here, splits off to the existing house that Dan and Jean live in. There's an existing driveway that comes in here that's shown in light gray, that's constructed today. And then it opens up into a field area here on the lot that we're talking about, where there is an existing pool, basketball court, and in front of that is where we're proposing to build and construct the new house. So there's wetland resource areas sort of on a couple sides here, right in this area, like this. And then on the other side here, those are the wetland resource areas. The orange lines here represent the 30, 50, and 100-foot buffer zones on the site. So with the exception of the connection of the driveway to the existing driveway, which is slightly within the 30-foot no-touch zone right in this area here, there's no work proposed within the 30-foot no-touch zone. Again, the only way to access it is through that point. The rest of this, all of the driveway from this point on is outside of the 50-foot no-touch zone or no structure zone, and then the house is almost completely out of the buffer zone, certainly outside of the 50-foot zone. The only other exception that I wanted to note is that, as I mentioned, there was an existing house here. So there is a water stub that comes in, and there's a existing water valve right in this location here. So we're proposing to connect the water line from that point. So that would be our utility connection. You can see we have the erosion control barrier run right around the limits of that, so we can accommodate that connection. And then in this location here, we can see this red dot. That's an existing utility pole. So the power lines come cross country from Mass Ave, kind of like this. to this pole. And we will need to connect to that pole, and the intention is to do that underground. So there will be a short period of excavation needed here to get from the pole, into the site, for the permanent power connection. And that is in fact within the 30-foot buffer zone. But it is within, it looks a little bit deceiving here, but that pole is right at the edge of the woods line. There's no tree removal that would be required for that connection. So it's completely out in the limit of the lawn area, or I'll call it lawn area. There were some comments that we got from both the site walk. I attended a site walk with Sophie, I think a week ago, and then I think Ryan was on site with a few members of the commission on Saturday. And two things came as a result of that. One was that we had not shown all of the trees that were going to be removed on the property. We had shown the ones in the back here, most of which are actually outside of the buffer zone. But there's two down here that are within the 100-foot. We didn't show the ones that were sort of right along the edge of the fence, for those of you that were here. So there's a fence area that encloses the pool. And there's about 6 trees right in this area, right along the fence, that are going to have to come down because they're in the location of where the house and driveway are proposed. All of those trees are outside of the 50-foot. 3 of them are outside of the 100-foot. So, but we wanted to be clear and show those on there. The only other thing that came to light was that there's a pocket of wetlands down here. Sorry, I'm having trouble with my technology. There's an area down here of wetlands that have been disturbed. And this is essentially, I think, historically, a drainage swale that was built a long time ago that drains, takes drainage, I think, from Mass Ave, and then drains to a culvert in here. And over time, it gets, the culvert gets kind of gummed up and it needs maintenance. So I think that the disturbance in here was related to that. And the applicant has committed to restoring that area. So I think that was discussed on site. We have memorialized that on this plan, where we will dress that area up and oversee that with a wetland seed mix. And we also issued a letter to that effect too. So those were the 2 items. Septic system is going in the back of the house outside of the buffer zone. So no issues with that. I think that's all for this one. We did receive a DEP file number on this one as well, and there were no comments from DEP on this one. So I think that is all I wanted to mention.
Thank you, Greg. So there is NHESP protected area on this, not in any of the areas where you're planning to do construction. But my
That's correct.
understanding is that if it touches the parcel that you're doing work with, that you have to send the letter to Mass NHESP and get them to agree that you're not altering that or impacting that area. Which hopefully would be something really straightforward to send to them, and they would send you back a letter saying, oh no, this doesn't apply.
So typically we would not do that if we're outside the polygon. We're either in it or out. So just so everybody knows, the limit of the natural heritage is right here. And it's back this way.
So I think
typically
all of
the
that
other
makes
reason-
sense. But we had a project on Arbor Street, and
Mhm.
that was the advice that we got from NHESP.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if they come back and say, oh no, that's wrong, your Conservation Commission got it wrong, just let me know and we'll, adapt and move on. But I can only go by, my understanding of what they've told us.
Okay. I mean, typically we would, it sounds like your mind's made up. That's fine. But typically the only way we either we're either in the polygon or not. If we're not in the
Mhm.
polygon with any work, we wouldn't send them anything. If we're within it, we would either file a formal MISA application or a joint notice of intent application, or if we're claiming an exemption, that's when we'd send them a letter and we'd say, you know, pursuant to whatever the CMR regulation is for MISA, exemption 3, you know, we feel we have, and we'd ask them to confirm that. But we typically would not if it's, if we're, you know, if it's clearly outside the polygon. But it sounds like you want us to do it, so.
Yeah, again, we had a project in over on Arbor Street where the work that was in the wetland area was outside of the NHESP area.
Mhm.
But because it touched the parcel, they said that it needed to go to NHESP.
Who was it that said that? Was it NHESP that said that, or was it
Yeah.
DEP that said that?
NHESP, I think.
Because I mean, DEP did comment on this, and they didn't have any. It did review this. And they
Well,
didn't
yeah,
they didn't comment.
agreed, agreed.
I mean, I would think you'd usually get a. I mean, there's an overlapping provision in the Wetlands Protection Act that it relates to, you know, the interests of endangered species. It's a
Mhm.
different process technically than natural heritage, but it does dovetail. And so it is something that they have on their radar screen.
Yeah,
I don't know. And it, you know, as of late, DEP isn't really holding back any comments. You know, if they have anything, they usually put it on there. So I just give that to you as possible evidence that maybe somebody agreed with us. At least
well,
DEP agreed with us.
you know, if I was the only commissioner on there, maybe nobody else remembered it that way. And so you are absolutely correct. DEP doesn't say that here, and they do usually make that comment. So if I'm the only one with that memory, right, and people want to proceed, I'm okay with that too. I'm happy to take it back up offline, you know.
It's just that
This won't be the last
that's
project.
that's likely to take like a month and a half.
Oh, is it
And
really?
they're probably gonna, you know, that,
Yeah.
you know, it's just we're gonna waste a month and a half
Hmm.
for them to say that, you know.
It doesn't apply.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you. I'll do it. I'll do it offline. I'll validate with them offline, right? And I'll let you know what they tell me.
Yeah, I
Because
appreciate the consideration.
yeah, yeah. You always you always come and tell us exactly the way it is, right? With the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I appreciate that candor.
Yeah.
It buys you grace, in my opinion. So, any other questions or comments about this project by other members of the commission? Jenny.
I don't know if I missed this or not. I was trying to go through some of the notes from Sophie. Did you say what's going to happen to the debris from the pool when that's removed?
Yeah, so presently he's, you can see here, to be removed. Presently, he's planning on pulling all that out and filling that in. So he's not intending to keep the pool. You know, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what type of pool it is. Danny's on the call. I don't know if Danny has any,
Yeah, so it's a vinyl liner pool,
Okay.
concrete. So typically, whenever you do a pool demo project, you pull a demo permit with the building department. All the concrete needs to be brought to a concrete disposal yard, you know, such as Keating's or something like that. You remove the vinyl liner, you know, dumpster, you know, typical rubbish removal type of thing. And then once the hole is clean of all that, the building inspector gives you the okay to, you know, fill it with clean sand fill type of thing. That's typically what happens with a pool removal.
Okay,
And we'll probably use the spoils from the foundation hole to do that. It's pretty good material here. It's pretty sandy material here, so we have good granular material here too.
okay.
Any other questions or comments? So, do we have questions or comments from members of the public? I'm seeing none. Okay, we do have a DEP number, so there is option to motion to approve this, with standard conditions. Nobody's articulated anything different,
This one again, Madam Chair, is well below. Ryan really wanted me to implore you to modify. I think it ends up being condition 41, which is relative to the SWIP and the NIPDs, because this one will not come close to rising to the level of needing that type of filing. So it just puts us in a catch-22 when that's in there, because there's no way to really there's no way to comply with that condition on projects like this.
what's the threshold, for square footage, where that
One-
applies?
1 acre.
1 acre?
And I don't know what the math is here, but I've confirmed with Ryan, we're well below that for disturbance here. So it doesn't even rise to needing a local stormwater permit, and certainly not a SWIP or an NIPD's. So, I mean, if you wanted to keep it in there, I don't know that we'd object, but because it's a standard boilerplate condition, but if we could just put the words like if required for the project or something like that, or I'd love to
I'm
do-
amenable to that being a condition that only applies if it is applicable.
That would be terrific. Thank you for that consideration.
And I am looking for a motion if the commission is amenable to approving this with the modification is it stormwater condition, Greg?
Yeah, I can tell you what it is here. I can read it for you. Hold on one second. Ryan was kind enough to forward it to me.
It'd be even easier and better if you told us what the read it, but also told us what the number reference was as well.
It's condition. Sorry, I lost it. Hold on here. I got too many windows open. What is it? I gotta stop share. Hold on one
Fine,
second.
yeah.
I can't find the there it is. So it's condition, the one that, at least in the order that he's referencing here, and I'm not sure which one it is, but it was condition 41 under the heading stormwater management. And the condition reads as follows: there shall be no direct discharge of runoff into streams or wetlands. Runoff from the site shall be directed overland to maximize groundwater recharge and cleansing of the runoff through contact with natural soils and vegetation. Discharge from the detention basin shall be at least 30 feet from any wetland resource area. We don't object to any of that. So if you wanted to keep that in, that would be fine. It's the next sentences that are problematic, because then it says the following documentation shall be submitted. And there's 3 things. It says NIPD's permits shall be submitted to file, copies of the SWIP reports filed, and reports of maintenance of stormwater systems for every phase shall be submitted yearly. So it's just those 3 things can't be done on a site like this because the SWIP doesn't apply.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I am looking for a motion to approve, and for whoever makes that motion to consider the language of sounds like the latter half of condition 41 that may not apply.
Yeah, just essentially if you would be willing, just to strike the language relative to the SWIP in this case.
Okay,
NIPD's
strike the
permit.
language relative to the SWIP. Okay. That
So,
sounds
the-
more straightforward.
I move to approve with condition 41 conditions to change the wording to strike out the SWIP.
Thank you, Chris.
Second.
Oh, who said second? Was that Rich?
Richard, yep.
Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Jenny,
Hi.
Rich,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
Greg.
much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, moving along. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation by Kevin O'Brien at 390 Howard Street. Do we have Mr. O'Brien and or his representatives here on the call tonight? It looks like we do not. Okay, so we have opened this hearing. It's unfortunate Mr. O'Brien's not here tonight, but this hearing was opened in October of 2023, and we have had some commissioner transitions in that period of time because it's been a while, right? So I think we need to carefully consider if we need to ask that this be the term that the town council had used was recommissioned. So renoticed and reopened as if it was new. We right now are at a minimum quorum, and that is if Rich, I did hear back from you that you believe that you are still valid to vote on this project. Jeff, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to review that or not.
As of right now, I am, yeah, still able to vote.
You are still able to vote? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the challenge with something that's so long and so drawn out is it's easy to, just normal types of work instances or whatnot can make you miss more than the minimum of one hearing. But of course, it's not just missing one, it's one where something of substance has been discussed. Okay, so we can still hear this. We don't have Mr. O'Brien here tonight, so I think we should continue it to April 16th. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Jenny and Chris. Roll call vote. Pete. Oh, Pete can't vote. Pete wasn't a commissioner then. Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rich.
Rich got kicked out for briefly, so he may not have been in when we started the motions.
Oh,
Do you know what we're,
no kidding. Well,
yeah, so he just got back in.
okay. Hey, Rich, what did you miss?
What's that?
What did you miss about 390 Howard Street? Was it everything?
Tonight? Yes. Yep,
Yeah.
I just missed
Yeah.
the last, it looks like I dropped about 2 minutes ago.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, so we had a motion to continue to April 16th, and we were doing a roll call vote. And I was looking for your vote,
Aye.
and I for myself. Okay, moving along. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Daniel Sheehan of Haley Ward Construction for construction of a two-family dwelling and raid garden within the 100-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland located at 221 Electric Ave. And this is continued from March 19th.
That's
I
correct.
was just making a note here. So, Daniel, at the last meeting, we had had a question about whether we had a couple of questions and comments that caused us to undertake the continuation. One of them was a question about whether the stream that was adjacent to the parcel and actually on the parcel was a perennial stream or intermittent stream. And we didn't have the data in front of us then, which, you know, drove us to ask about doing a peer review. After the meeting, our office administrator, went and ran a stream stats report. And
Okay.
the stream stats report came back with well below the 0.5 square mile minimum required for meeting the perennial stream criteria. So I wanted to, you know, bring it back to the commission to determine if they think a peer review is merited in this case, or if we would just ask you. The other comments that had been made, at least per my notes, were that there were some missing wetland flags that needed to be rehung. So to the commission, Sophie was going to redistribute that stream stats data. It's available to anybody. You know, it's public record, so you can go and run that stream stats. But I have also run that stream stats. So I think that we can accept that it's a intermittent stream crossing that parcel and not doesn't require or drive any riverfront protection. So in my mind, I don't any longer have a question about the delineation. But I do believe those flags need to be rehung. Does anybody else have a question or concern about that, or want to hold to our previous decision on going for a peer review? Okay, well, I'll call on people. Jenny, what are your thoughts?
I think that with the data that we have, I think that we could not do the peer review now.
Okay. Very good. Jeff?
I would agree as well.
Okay. Mike?
Yes, I agree as well.
Okay. Chris?
Same.
Pete?
I concur.
Okay. And Rich?
Yep, I concur. We've had numerous applications in this area concerning that stream, and at no point had it ever been flagged as a perennial stream. It always had been understood as an intermittent stream. So
Okay.
now that Sophie's memorialized the watershed is too small, I think that pretty much answers the question.
Yeah, and I don't want to force them to go do something that they wouldn't have to do. So,
We do appreciate that. I'll just speak on behalf of the applicant, just for the sake of formalities. Dan Chin with Haley Ward here representing Redbird Construction, the applicant. And just full disclosure too, I was talking to Sophie intermittently earlier today. I know she seemed like she got sick, but so I do remember from our last meeting too, there was some question about some of the wetland delineation. I'm just going to share my screen here just to kind of show that neck of the woods. And when you guys were last out there, I think some of the concern was closer in this corner.
yeah.
About like some flags being on the wrong side or something of that nature of the stream. So Sophie, I did ask about wetland delineation report. I went through my files. I couldn't find anything. I've kind of inherited this project from previous engineers here. So the biggest thing is when it comes to the full delineation, if it was to come up, I was at least talking to Sophie in the sense of if there was going to be a extra peer review, we could kind of confirm a lot of that delineation if there is still question. But again, I do defer to you guys as the wetland specialist more so than anything. But just figure at least just make it full disclosure so everyone here is on the same page of things, especially where Sophie's not here tonight.
So a peer review is just going to go out there and say it's right or it's not right. They're not going to redelineate it for you.
Yep.
So I think you should, you know, speaking as one member of the commission, that you should either work with the previous resource, and if you can't find that previous resource, whoever, you know, your firm does, you know, business with and wants to hire to go out there rehang the flags and redelineate it in that area if they, if they think that's appropriate, then I think that's the best course of action.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
And no one else is jumping in to offer an alternate view, so that's what I think we ought to do. I think that gives you the most control over managing the costs there as well, because you know the focus area that they need to go to.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions or comments about that? That's all I wanted to address in this hearing tonight. We do still have, as we just discussed, the area where at the very least, Sophie said some flags were missing and she thought looked like they weren't quite in the right spot. So I think Daniel, we would want to continue, and I don't know how long it might take you to get somebody out there to address the flags in that area. Do you want to just go to April 16th and let Sophie know if you weren't able to get it done, or do you want to bump out to May?
Yeah, I think it's probably best if we just push it out to April 16th just to kind of keep it on everybody's radar. But to your point, if things aren't done by then, I'll just request a continuance to May.
Okay. And first I want to, so no peer review, I want to vote on that separately, because then we'll be consistent with the way we have managed it in the last hearing. So a motion to strike that requirement is what I'm looking for right now.
Motion to strike the peer review.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jenny. Roll call vote. Pete,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. Okay, and now for motion to continue to April 16th, so the applicant has time to address the missing flagging.
Motion to continue to April 16th.
Thank you,
Second.
Chris. Thank you, Jenny. Roll call vote. Pete,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. And sorry to stalk out of terms here, Madam Chair, through you. I'm also going to be here for 711 Mass Ave. Do you guys like a presentation for some of that stuff? This is for a de minimis change. I just want to know if I should stay on the call.
Yeah, it'd be helpful since we don't have Sophie here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally fine.
Thanks for offering.
Not a problem.
Okay, moving along. Here we have a couple that we are tracking. 10 Sandy Cove Road, that's an administrative determination. I don't know if we have the information that we need to discuss that with Sophie not being here today. Jenny, you were kind of in the background looking at Sophie's notes for us. Does she have any notes about this that we can work off of?
So I actually dropped the ball on this one and should have put it on our site walks this weekend, but I did not. But let me see what the notes are. And
We don't typically go on site walks for administrative determinations.
okay.
Just as an
Sophie had assigned
FYI.
it to me. Okay.
Oh, okay. But I mean, that's what administrative determination means. It's her
Okay.
determination. Doesn't mean that we can't, but it's just
Right.
not, unless there's something unusual that she particularly wanted us to look at, it's not usually the stand-in assumption that we're going to go do those.
Okay, let's see. So in her notes, this proposed cutting of upper portions of 13 trees. Excluding snag tree along the edge of the property, agree to add plantings as replacement, including various spruce species and arborvitaes. Agree to remove upper half and leave 5 feet for wildlife habitat. Main concern is clearance for residential utility lines only. Also advise that limbing is also an option for utility clearance. requested an updated plan depicting where the replacement plantings would be located on the property to be uploaded into the online permitting portal. And then I'm not sure if I'm seeing, I found a diagram showing location of proposed work. That is
You
not,
want to share that with us? Do you have the ability
Yeah.
to do that?
I should. Maybe. Okay,
do
can you see
we-
this?
Do we have that applicant here with us tonight? I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand. Okay.
Can you see the diagram or can you only see the record?
I could see, well, I can see the house and
Okay.
the satellite image,
So
sort of.
this is a diagram showing location of proposed work relative to the wetlands.
Mhm.
Um,
Does it show that?
I don't feel like it does.
No.
I guess there's some feet, 13.9 feet. 35, it looks like it's more just house dimensions.
Yeah.
And let's see what else we have for attachments. We have some photos that Sophie had uploaded. Can you see this?
I can.
And I think we might have to wait for Sophie on this one. But also it doesn't look like the applicant uploaded the requested planting diagram. So we wanna,
Yeah, I think we need to continue this. It also doesn't look like there's a diagram that shows where the work is gonna be relative to the wetland either.
yeah. So all we have is some pictures and then the proposed work diagram that doesn't appear to be what we're looking for, so.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to continue to April 16th.
So moved.
Thank you, Jenny.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Roll call vote. Pete,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rich. Did we lose? No, Rich is here. Rich, I didn't hear you. Maybe he's still struggling with the internet. I've heard there've been problems across town. Jenny,
Hi.
I for myself. Rich,
Aye.
very good. Right. Excellent. Okay, moving along. Certificate of compliance for 564 Page Street. Okay, so do we have the applicant or the representative here with us tonight?
Similar Geo 564 Page Street.
Hello, and welcome back. Okay, so why don't you just go over the project with us? Normally Sophia would do that, but she is not with us tonight.
There was a septic system completed in 2018. There were trees taken down in the buffer area. A notice of intent was filed. A replanting plan was done by Norse Environmental. The plan was voted on in 2018 in June and approved. The plan was, I guess the site, there was a site walk done by Norse in 2021 and a few more site walks done by conservation, the agent during the prior application to rehabilitate the extra trees that were taken down within the 30-foot.
Okay. And Jenny, do you have you looked at, or can you look at, Sophia's, most recent site walk notes?
Yes. So this is from March 25th. And she wrote, noted new fencing installed around bushes and trees to protect vegetation from wildlife damage. Wood and plastic fencing installed around property line. Blueberry bushes appear to be in decent health. New saplings and old appear to be in decent health. Buds are present but not leafed out. Some buds show signs of potential new growth. Substantial fresh deer rub damage noticed on one sapling. And then she has some pictures. Maybe I should share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, can we see this?
Yes.
We've got some buds. I wish that I could just go through them.
It'd be nice if
Easily.
you could just hit an arrow key instead of having to,
Yeah.
yeah,
So here we have, looks like some fencing up.
very good.
I have 80 tabs open by the end of this. We have a maple with the stake holding it up, looks like. Buds. Tell me if I'm going too fast.
Nope, it's all good.
Ten tabs to get back to where I was. Some budding. Stabilization there. Where was I? I was here. The deer rubbing is.
Yeah, it's a popular deer area apparently.
Yeah. Looks like a visual. The entire area. Buzz. Okay. And that is the end of the pictures.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jenny. Okay, so my understanding of this project now, when it's come before us the other two times, we haven't always had a very clear, comprehensive view of the history. I did talk to the agent that was in the office at the time, prior to Sophie, and at the time that this was submitted. And my understanding from Matt Morrow is that this NOI and OOC were a result of a violation, which required a resource area replication. And as Mr. Allegio actually said, that area was the 30-foot buffer zone. The vegetation had been removed there, and that required the resource area replication, sometimes known as a restoration. limited project. So that led to the commission at the time putting some more onerous types of conditions in place. Specifically having a wetland professional come to monitor the initial plantings and also all phases of growth to ensure the restoration, and also requires a letter from qualified wetland scientists certifying compliance with state regulations on the order, and also showing that the wetland area has been restored and is complete. And then the other thing, which is fairly standard, is that we need a letter from a professional engineer that says that the work has been completed and annotates all of the deviations to the plan from what was actually approved. And we do have a letter on record from Dillis and Roy. It does say that that there are plantings there and that the soil and surrounding areas are stabilized. It does not state what the deviations are, at least per my reading from the original plan. And I don't think that we have a letter from a qualified wetland scientist saying that the work is complete and that the plants are established. Have we submitted that, Mr. Allegio?
Per the order of conditions that was issued by your commission, it doesn't require one.
It does. It's in the order of conditions. This is a restoration, and that's why that condition was put on this.
I understand. I'm looking at 2081134, the order of conditions that was voted by your commission.
Mm-hmm. And what's number 45?
Well, that's boilerplate. You have to look at page 3 before you can get that far. So if you look at page 3 in the order of conditions here, it says buffer zone impact, closest limit of project, and the wetland. It specifies a number 2 linear feet. And inside the next section, inland resource area impact, none are checked, only buffer zone work. It specifies 2 feet outside of the wetland resource area.
So in the NOI that I saw in the file today, it actually said Doug Smith, your engineer at the time, said that this was a restoration project for limited work within the buffer zone. And that is to restore the area that had been damaged, which means that number 45 does apply. And it clearly at one point you thought it applied because you had Norse come out and do the initial review for number 45. But the subsequent reviews haven't been done, and we don't have those letters.
Ma'am, with all due respect, 26 in the general order, in the general conditions, section D, work in wetlands. If you look at the order that this is referring to, it's the same order.
Yes.
It literally says the closest affected area was 2 linear feet from the wetland resource area on page 3.
Yeah, but our state, our municipal regulations actually convey resource area protections on the buffer zones, which then means that wetland replication criteria apply when those buffer areas are damaged.
But the replanting plan that you guys approved has no wetland area restoration, 0. So
The wetland area, no. The resource area, yes, which is why the resource area replication criteria applies.
But this says work in wetlands. And we didn't affect the wetland. So when you look at section 26, item D, for general conditions, it says work in wetlands. And if you go down to 45, pursuant to 26D. But I didn't do any work in wetlands per or page 3. So I don't know what I'm supposed to get from this person because I didn't do any work there. And I don't, and it says that I was never in there.
So what you're supposed to get from them is something similar to the initial report that you got from them that says that all of the restoration area in the resource, all the restoration in the resource area is complete and it's consistent with the original plan. We did go back and look for the original plan and found that. And it looks like the original plan, which is now also posted in OpenGov, had 29 plantings. That's what the commission approved. The Norse letter that was in 2021 actually showed 17 plantings. The most recent Dillison Roy letter shows 11 plantings. So that's a serious reduction in the number of plantings that were in the approved plan versus what's in the as-built. And the Dillison Roy letter does not actually show those deviations or account for them, or just try to justify why that many plantings were removed from the actual site.
I don't know what the deviations you're referring to. There's, if you look at the replanting plan and then you look at the Greg Roy, they match up identically.
I saw
Very-
17 in the Norse plan.
No, if you look at the plan that was approved for replanting in the beginning in 2018, revision A, approved in June of 2018. If you look at that,
Maybe you should share that with us, because the one that was given to us or that we found in our record showed 29, and that's the one in OpenGov. So share with us the one that you have.
I have no clue how to do that. I mean, are you looking at the replanting plan right now that's uploaded to OpenGov?
I looked at the original plan that's uploaded in OpenGov that stated 2018.
Right. So if you look at that plan and then you look at the plan that Greg Roy submitted, it's the same.
Why don't you share with me what you're looking at? Because what you were looking at and what I was looking at earlier are not the same. And I would also say, you know, if the other commissioners are looking at the documentation and have the ability of sharing it, that would be helpful.
Everything has been uploaded. I truly just don't know how to do it. I have no idea how to manipulate the screen.
Hi, Jenny. You have your hand
Put it
up.
on my screen if you'd like me to share it.
Okay, super.
Can we see it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so hold on, let me make it make sense. There we
Rotate
go.
it. Nice.
All right, so this is the legend. These are some of the plants that were called out. And then this is the plan. This is what we're looking for, right?
If you scroll more up, if you kind of go up a little bit more, keep going. Yeah. So these trees with the bushes here, like this is indicating, no, the circles are where it's supposed to go. The open circles, the hollows. That's proposed trees, and then the proposed shrubs are inside of that. If you were to look at the plan that Greg Roy submitted, it's the same.
We're missing a page, but so the trees, the open circles are supposed to be trees.
The open circles are the proposed replantings. The
Yeah.
stars, yes, those things are
Yeah.
trees removed that were there before.
Okay, and then these are shrubs?
You'd have to refer to the legend. I think that indicates a red oak that was taken down for the septic. I'm not 100% sure. There's a legend at the bottom. Yeah, keep going left.
Yeah, it doesn't have. The legend is all utilities and. So it says here. That, plant shrubs, trees and herbaceous plants per attached list. And then we have a list, but we don't have a legend for. These, but typically this would be some sort of a vegetation. And
I
there's
mean,
one,
that's those are outside 100 feet. The if you look where it says trees proposed, and then shrubs proposed, they have the little circles, and then the trees proposed is the big circles. I don't know if there's another page that was supposed to be uploaded as well, but if you go up to the top of the page, it shows a little bit more. Yeah. Is there another one of these that's there as well?
no, it's just this one page.
So if you count the little circles that are the proposed shrubs, and then
Yep.
count the big circles that are proposed trees,
Yes.
you come up with 15. And the as-built that was submitted by Dillis and Roy has 11. And the Norse initial inspection report showed 17. So there's a discrepancy here.
Well, the ones that are closest are far overgrown. Then those are the ones that are indicated on the Norse plan. I mean, this was 7 years ago. They're the ones that are closest to the existing pond that Norse indicates that are there are completely overgrown by the wetland. The wetland is taken over. So Norse indicates in 2021 that they're there, but now in 2025 they're completely gone.
Oh, well, what they said in 2021 in their report was that there were 17 plantings that had been planted in September. They did in September of 2021, and they did their inspection in December of that same year. So they basically said that, it looks like they were planted, and it looks like they're doing okay for being dormant conditions. But they did detail in their schedule 17 plantings.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're looking for.
So
Good.
do you want me to pull that up, Mary?
Sure.
Okay. Seeing it in the, I have it somewhere though.
While you're looking for that, Jenny, I just want to say here that, this application has caused us concern when it was before us before, because it started out as a violation. It had a condition on it for a wetland scientist to monitor it throughout. And it looks like that that was not followed.
Where's that condition?
Number 45
No,
for the restoration area. And then when the certificate of compliance was requested this summer, and Sophia went out and did an inspection, There were dead trees that were painted green and leaves taped onto those dead trees. So
Ma'am.
there's a lot of reason for concern about the actually being dedicated to the wetland area, the protected resource area, and ensuring that those plants are there and they thrive and continue to thrive.
I need to be completely transparent. I was not there. I do not live there. I had no access to the property, and it was one tree that was replanted. I don't know why people do what they do. I truly, I had no part in that. I had no access to the property. I was not even the owner at the time. The one tree was corrected. There was gates put up around the fence. I'm sorry, there were little fences put up around the blueberry bushes. If you look at the replanting plan, we followed it. I don't really know what else we can do besides, if you want the
I
letter
see
from,
17, Jenny, I see 17 replantings in this Norse report. Am I counting it
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 6, 7, 13, 17.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that was what was there when Norse did the inspection in 2021. But somehow that's been reduced to 11 now.
well, that's because the 6 closest to the wetland are truly taken over. They're gone. They're under weeds that are, or whatever plants that are wetland type that are, yes, in there, that they're gone. Low bush blueberries and
Your
things of that nature.
your wetland scientists should be able to find them, right? Or justify that they don't need to be there because the wetland has sufficiently been restored.
Ma'am, the 45 and the 26 are boilerplate. And looking at the order of conditions, it's not applicable. Can your commission please, can they vote on the fact that 2 linear feet to the actual wetland resource area is not work within inside the wetland resource area? I didn't come up with it. You guys voted on it. Those are the numbers. That's the universe that I'm in right now.
Jenny, you have your hand up.
So, I mean, look, I think a big concern for me is that looking at this, these plants should be much bigger now. And it appears that none of these plants survive. Very few of these plants have survived. And we're talking 4 years later. So it's hard for me to think that, if this is what's happened in the last 4 years, and we're still looking at plants that really should be very established at this point, because the original planting plan was in 2018. So we should be about 6 years out from the initial planting. So this should be very established. It's hard to say, okay, well, now we can see that it looks like you guys are really, whomever has really kind of put a lot of thought into what's planted there now. But how do we know that that's going to stay established if we're 6 years later and we don't have very much to show for what was originally designed?
Okay, thank you, Jenny.
If you're looking for a letter, I will get a letter. I don't.
That's what I personally am looking for. I'm looking for a letter from wetland scientists that says that this replanting matches what was approved by the Conservation Commission, and that it is they agree that the restoration is complete and the plants are established. That's what I am looking for.
Is the commission in agreement that this is actually work within a wetland resource area? Is the commission truly in agreement? Has a vote been taken on that? Because the actual language in that document states otherwise. Truly.
Yeah. So, and I can ask that question. So just for the commission to recall for the commission, right? I did speak to Matt Morrow about this, and Matt's advice was, and consistent with what is in the original NOI, is that this this restoration work is in the resource area and therefore qualifies as a restoration project, and that conveys upon the protections that were cited for wetland replication. But I'm happy to hear from the commission on this. Jenny, you have your hand up.
So, condition 45 is actually a special condition that was
Mhm.
put in this order of conditions specifically because this is a replication. So that wouldn't, that's not typically there for an order of conditions. It's only added to an order of conditions for this type of circumstance. But
But
that
wouldn't,
leads me to believe that this is definitely meant to be this.
but if there's work in the wetlands and the order of conditions says there isn't. I didn't
It's
come up- I
it's
didn't come up-
conveyed it's conveyed for restoration, and that's the language that we use for restoration.
But if it was buffer zone impact only,
The
then there would
buffer
be
zones
there would be
by
no
the
caveat to
by
work
the
with
state,
wetland.
by the town bylaw and wetland regulation, the buffer zones are resource areas.
It says work
Resource areas
within
count as
wetland.
wetlands.
It says work within the wetlands. That's literally what it says.
Resource areas and wetlands are synonyms in the regulations. So I will go around and ask the commissioners on their thoughts about whether we need to get a wetland scientist letter or no. Rich, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I agree that we do need a professional to make sure that the site is compliant with the application that was approved. Clearly 17 plants were in the application. Clearly 17 plants have not been shown to be in existence today. Therefore, it is not in compliance.
Thank you, Rich. Mike?
Yes, I concur with everything that's been said by you and Rich. If 17 plants were part of the restoration and they're not there, it's hard for us to give a certificate of compliance when something isn't in front of us. So I think the applicant needs to bring those 17 plants and show us that they're thriving, and then we'll be glad to give them a certificate of compliance.
So Mike, are you looking for a wetland scientist letter as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Chris?
Yes, I would feel better having a wetland scientist due to the complexity of this property, the issue. So yes.
Thank you, Chris. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm a yes as well for all the other reasons that we've discussed here. So
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Who have I not called on? Pete?
I'm not sure. Is this outside of my,
Oh, you can vote on certificates of compliance.
right now, given my level of time, I'm just gonna go along with the other previous commissioners' requests. And also, I think the length this thing's been drawn out, it's kind of, somebody's got to get eyes on it and just say, hey, this is kosher or not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pete. Okay, Shane, you did have your hand up. I wanted to go around to the commissioners and see where their mindset was before I called on you.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can, yeah. If you would just
Hi.
introduce yourself and give your address.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, my name is Shane Walker. I am the current owner of 564 Page Street. Again, thank you for your time tonight. So I just wanted to touch base, going back and reviewing some of the prior meetings. And again, just going over what has already been discussed. If we refer back to November 6th meeting, I have a particular timestamp. You guys had discussed that we did not need to meet the special condition for a wetland scientist. And Sophia had looked at the information and had agreed and stated that we did not need it. I'm curious to see why we're in difference now than we were back in November.
I think now we've had time to actually go through and look through all the records, find all the missing records, piece together what actually happened, and have a better idea of the history on this. That's at
Okay.
least where my mindset is.
Okay. And then so as far as getting the wetland scientist out there, so I'm gonna just go out on a limb. I'm gonna assume that you guys are gonna look for the 17 plants being the original order. What's your honest opinion? Again, I understand, for many of the members on here, understand what I did. I am ashamed of it. I can't take it back. And, again, I'm in front of you once again. And again, as you've seen from some of the photos, or many of the photos, again, I'm making efforts. And as Tim has mentioned, he hasn't been out to the property. And, again, this kind of is with him, but also more so me, and just trying to get this resolved, trying to do it right. And again, I've put my effort into, replacing the plants, getting educated by the nurseries, and then as well as, again, just trying to do maintenance, clean up, make sure the blueberry bushes aren't overgrown, and to touch base with on Jenny's concern with the the growth of the trees and whatnot. My only thought process behind this, and again, I'm not an expert by any stretch, is how do you determine the growth of a certain species in a certain soil? Again, this is planting outside of per se natural habitat per se. And again, how do you gauge what the growth is per year? Again, they're in there, they're growing, as you've seen. We've got buds on the new trees as well as the trees that have been there. And again, it's just kind of one of those timeline things. As far as the deer rub, again, I abut 30 acres. And again, that's why I purchased the property. Again, it's a awesome view. Again, love the wetlands, have ducks, have the peepers are going crazy right now this time of year. And it's one of those things where I want to keep up on it, keep maintaining it, and making sure that it stays healthy and keeps going. So hopefully this at least shows my intent. Again, I'm determined, and I am going to continually look after this and look forward from this point forward. So again, circling back to my original question, getting the wetland scientists, for what we have established right now, for what the plan calls from Dillis and Roy, if we go ahead and we get a wetland scientist with the current plantings, are you as a commission comfortable with what's there today?
So what I would be looking for is a wetland scientist letter that shows 17 plantings, because that is what was approved.
Okay.
So that's what I would be looking for. When you came before us before, we didn't have all the records assimilated, and so we're missing pieces of that history. And yeah, so now we have that history. So I would be looking for 17 plantings and a wetland scientist completion letter saying that the restoration was completed. That's what I would be looking for. Jenny?
I would be looking for the same. I would like to see, what was originally intended to be there. And also, you had a question about how much things should be growing per year and the soil and that. And I would hope that your original planting plan is based on that actual area. So it should be plants. You should be, confident that those are going to be plants that are going to do pretty well there.
Right. Understood. And then, so I guess just to clarify, according to their plans, they look like they have trees in the 30-foot no touch zone. Again, I'm still unclear about this so am I able to, to match the plan? Am I able to dig up and disturb that 30-foot buffer zone? As far as I was aware,
Yeah,
you're not supposed to touch any of it.
That's the point of a limited restoration project, which is what was originally filed for, is to give you that permission to go in and add those plants in that 30-foot buffer zone.
I just want to be completely transparent. it's all there. They might be overgrown, but everything is there. I will have someone go verify it. I will have someone go verify it. But there is
Okay.
no additional plantings. There will be no additional site disturbation or whatever you want to call it. No one will touch anything. Everything is there. Everything's growing. I will get a letter saying that there are 17 plants and they're alive.
Excellent. That would be great. Then we can put all this to bed. So I am looking for a motion to deny. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I heard Jenny for the motion and Rich Birch for the second. Roll call vote. We'll start with Jenny.
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
and I for myself. So the motion's denied. Yeah, resubmit the request for COC when you have the letter from the wetland scientist, and Sophie will send you documentation on the denial as soon as she's back in the office.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving along. 711 Mass Ave, notice of project change. Oh,
Can I
sorry,
just
Jenny.
Interrupt for 1 second. I have someone who direct messaged me
Mhm.
from 7 Park Street, and they said that Sophie was there earlier today for an administrative determination, but I'm not seeing it on our schedule. So I just wanted to make sure we can't hear that, and I wanted to tell them that
No, we
talk to
can't.
Sophie. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So keep going.
Yeah, so I think this was 711 Mass Ave. Was that you, Daniel, again?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So I'm just going to share my screen here, kind of outline everything. Full transparency. This also went to the planning board and was reviewed by Graves Engineering, their peer reviewer, for the de minimis change. So what you see here, the black or bold, is what was the original plan. And then everything highlighted in red here is changes. Going real high level to kind of show the major changes was a lot of the footings were actually placed a couple inches lower than they were intended to. So there had to be some slight grading changes to kind of make sure that everything still followed the original design intent. As part of Graves Engineering letter, they did note that this 542 contour, I'm going to try to zoom in here. Okay, it's going to keep popping up. It was originally tied in on this side, which would actually allow flow into the garage, which we wouldn't want. So we actually relocated that outside of that. And then besides that was a lot of the stormwater changes. Again, some high level stuff here. The biggest thing was the outlets here were placed a little bit lower. So to kind of help mitigate, to maintain those same stormwater standards, we're proposing to have reducers installed for some of these. One of the outlet pipes here is going to have an 8x6 reducer on it. And the other one here is a 12x8 reducer, but it also have like an elbow, so a riser for it. And that's just, again, just to mitigate all those flows that originally were getting sent out because these were placed lower, just to make sure we're still in compliance with those Mass DEP stormwater standards. And that is, yep, go ahead.
Daniel, just educate me on this. I'm an electrical engineer, not a civil engineer.
Sure.
How does the reducer mitigate the lower position?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing here is with the higher orifice, you can allow a lot more water flow to come through it. With these smaller orifices, you're kind of constricting that flow. So essentially you end up what they call a barrel block situation, where you're only allowing a certain amount of flow to kind of come through and allows the water to kind of build up. So the issue you would have with those larger diameters on the lower end is that as that water builds up, it starts to really push the water through the pipes a bit faster. So you kind of give a constrainer on that to kind of just choke down that flow to kind of keep it at a steady pace.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
So it doesn't increase the velocity of the water?
No, this is mainly more of a flow situation, not so much
Okay.
a velocity issue.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just didn't want you to get very far before I asked that question.
No, not a problem. Just a question.
So,
yep, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So again, just kind of going over some of the other changes and stuff that was brought up by the planning board. I know it's really not purview for you guys here, but just at least giving a full view of it, if you will. The riprap apron was extended just because some slopes are a bit steeper, and that had actually encroached upon some of the snow storage area. So what the building commissioner had brought up was trying to replicate some of that initial snow storage elsewhere. We show it over here. It's the same size that it originally was, and just a little bit smaller here. So you get a little bit more snow storage than before. And that's really it. I'd be more than happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yep.
Jenny, would you look up, if you haven't already, Sophia's notes? And then Pete did have his hand up, so I'll call on Pete, first.
I'm just still a little confused. Where is this reducer placed that it increases or decreases flow rate without increasing velocity if the pipe, it's at the bottom end of the pipe, or is it part way up? Is it like a choke?
All right, so this would be on the invert of the pipe.
The what?
So it would be at the invert of the pipe, so it would be at the bottom of it. I
Yeah.
guess maybe I misspoke or misled you there, Peter. So again, thank you for bringing it up. So I guess the issue wasn't necessarily that there was a velocity issue, like with the scouring or things of that nature. Just because you have the splash pad, typically speaking, those scour velocities are when you start hitting 12 feet per second in a pipe. And based on my recollection, I don't think they reached that high. Again, this was also went out to peer review from the planning board, who also had Graves Engineering, who are stormwater specialists, also take a look at this. But good questions. If you are concerned, I can pull up those numbers here shortly and kind of get a better sense, if you will.
I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to look at just for more informational purposes. There's going to be like riprap or something after the pipe, right? It doesn't just discharge the soft sand or whatever.
That is correct. That is correct. This is essentially splash pad.
Yeah, just for education, let's say, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, I'll pull it up while James pulling up the other things here.
Jenny, did you find Sophie's notes?
So I'm having a hard time finding this one because there are now 8 7-Eleven Mass Abs. And then there's one because they each have their own record in OpenGov. And then the original 7-Eleven Mass Ave only has an electrical permit attached to it. Do you happen to know the original OpenGov NOI number for this by any chance?
I do not, but give me 1 second. I do know this was attached to a specific order of conditions, I think, that may assist with that.
Gosh. I'm just gonna go, I know it was 2024.
Yep. Bear with me here. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Oh, you know what?
Go ahead.
The original of this was on OpenGov. Am I right?
I
think this-
believe so.
Right before we,
Really?
where did I find plans for the field change earlier?
I don't know. I would be surprised if it was on OpenGov because this was approved before I was commissioner and we went
Yeah.
on OpenGov then.
Okay.
I mean, the building plan permitting system, right? The building and structure site work may have been in OpenGov then, but the Conservation Commission portion was not. Yeah, I thought you found the sidewalk
did.
notes this weekend. Maybe you found them in the share drive, just with
Maybe.
Sophie has that sidewalk or
Oh yeah,
administrator's
the
report.
administrative report. For that.
Apologies, Jenny, for putting you in the hot seat for looking up all this stuff.
Okay, you honing my search skills. No, that's not today. See one for this. Right, here's our administrative report. And it says
Oh.
see OpenGov. So it is, I was seeing it in OpenGov. It's gotta be.
Yeah. Yeah, you found it this weekend though, because you were walking me and Pete through it.
Yeah. Why can't I find it now? It was the only thing that showed up when I was looking for it before.
I imagine your end's a little bit different than mine. I can also take a look at OpenGov on my end as well, see if I can find anything for you. But while you guys are still searching for that, I guess I can do this little educational purpose as far as Pete here. So normally what you do is you look at the 25-year storm event, and we made sure that we stayed relative to what was originally approved back in the day. So this here is Pond 35P, which is that retention basin that is being modified. And what we show here is the 6-inch round culvert kind of being that constricting factor. And if I can find it, normally they do show velocity coming out of it as well. Yeah, okay, here we go. So again, just for the educational purposes, this is device number 3. So down here on the primary outfall, it'll be labeled as number 3. And it shows here inlet controls 0.8 CFS at 405 feet per second. And then similarly with the other ones here as well, inlet 2, sorry, being that 8-inch, that's not going to have that reducer on it. Got up to 3.84, but allowed a lot more flow out. So it's, again, not at a velocity that's, I would say, concerning with reaching that 12 feet per second, but it just allows a lot more flow to come out of this. And that was kind of the more of the issue here in this case. But to your point, velocity is a concern, so we would want to keep that in mind as well. So Pete, that's an astute question as well. I see Jenny with her hand up, so I'll stop talking here.
Jenny?
I found it. It was under LT4, so I guess unit 4. So let me share.
Okay,
Lot 4.
yep, that makes sense.
Okay. So. All right, can we see this?
Yeah.
Yep.
So erosion controls must be corrected and maintained throughout the entire duration of construction for all units. Construction debris and trash within the buffer zone on the opposite side of the silt fence must be removed, as well as any on-site and disposed of properly. Riprap slope has extended further into the 200-foot riverfront area buffer by approximately 30 feet. Grading changes on the east end behind units 5, 6, 7, and 8, and within an infiltration basin, which is within the 100-foot buffer zone. All 3 riprap areas changed. See plans. And then she has some pictures that we took a look at while we were there. Let's see if there's, I can go through all of them. Like this is. And then I also had a concern with some erosion to the side of the lot that hasn't been, that is just has the foundation, which I have some pictures of that too.
Yep.
I can go through Sophie's pictures.
Oh.
Yeah. I think that actually might be downslope of where my concern is.
Rightfully so, absolutely.
I think that's right underneath where we saw that washout.
Yeah. So I have some can you see my
Yes.
screen here? Can you see these pictures?
Yep.
So right here we have a washout. This is a better picture.
Oh,
So-
okay.
And I would like to, I think is, to see this water, this being, you see my mouse, maybe going
Mhm.
that way into some of there's a basin over
forebay.
there.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I guess to hopefully answer some of these questions, and Jenny, I apologize if I cut you off there. But so this site is still under construction. So I guess the purpose of kind of showing this plan, because my understanding is how this all kind of came up was what was originally submitted was as-built plans to the planning board, because they're looking to get some units closed out so they can sell it, so they can continue construction. So for those lots that are still not fully constructed, obviously they would still need to have a lot more work with it. I'm actually going to share my screen here as well, just to point out one thing to Jenny's point here, which is actually very critical as well. So what isn't constructed yet around these units, this is actually a water quality swale. So that's going to really supposed to pick up a lot of that runoff that's currently being shed across towards the erosion control barriers. and kind of pick it up and send it into the sediment forebay. The sediment forebay, as of right now, I will say it's doing its job in quotations because it is full of sediment. It is currently undersized just because of how it's currently behaving with that area not being stabilized yet. So all of that is still proposed. So all those things would still need to get done and everything of that nature. It just really comes down to, I guess, from a construction standpoint, he needs to kind of get some of the money released from his lender to kind of continue construction on those other lots. But I'm in complete agreement. That sediment washout really needs to be taken care of, and that erosion needs to be, rectified, to say the least. But when it's all said and done, it should still all be pitched into this forebay, especially with this water quality swale. I hope that maybe answers some of your questions. I'd be more than happy to go into more detail if needed. But just want to make sure I'm at least answering and not going above the call of duty, if you will.
To answer the question in my mind, Jenny, you're on mute, so.
It answered the question, and I would like to, see what's happening now taken care of, but
Absolutely.
yeah, it answers the question in my mind too.
What would address it in your mind, now? Putting a siltation barrier there or something to just kind of divert the water?
So right now, well, is this, I couldn't tell from the picture that Sophie had taken. Is the downslope, because I couldn't go down there because of my leg, but where all of the sedimentation that we saw deposited on that, let me pull up that picture again and I'll share my screen again.
Please. Honestly, I also have some photos too as well when the as-built was done, but this was a while back.
So this one, is this downslope of where my picture was?
Yes, it sure looks like it, because that grass along the side there is pretty much right at the edge of that basin, if you will, that's been currently constructed. So it's almost like right where that cement forebay should be. So based on what I can tell, it looks like that washout. Maybe if you move the cursor a little to the right there, Jenny, kind of like at the top, a little bit more up and to the right. I think that washout right there, that's probably the stones that you saw, and it's kind of just making its way down to the lowest point, so that all that silt is just kind of running off from whatever was gouged out by some rainstorm and just kind of piling at this low point here.
So my thinking is that if that continues, this is gonna, this barrier is not gonna hold up.
I absolutely agree.
What we do to maybe have some sort of barrier that's directing it the other way. I actually don't know what the best practice for that would be, but this definitely doesn't look like it has much left to hold it. So I would like to see this prevented so that this doesn't end up breaking.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can speak a little bit on BMPs. So the best management practice for something like this would just be a diversion trench, which is essentially just grabbing the excavator, digging like let's just say a 2 foot, 4 foot wide trench, whatever, and they have on site, and just directing it towards that sediment forebay where it should be collecting. Other things I've seen in the past too, and again, this is kind of, I guess, more in your purview, because I don't know, just based on the photo, I'm just kind of looking at the plans aside here. That looks like it might be really close to the 30-foot no disturb zone. But what I've seen in the past as well is that you kind of excavate out all that sediment, so you at least have that volume or storage capacity back. Other options too is like intermittent straw wattles or something like that. But it looks like the mulching here is at least helping. But I do agree that I think the biggest thing is on the uphill or the upgradient side of this. The best management practice here, in my mind, would just be dig a diversion trench, direct it all towards the forebay area. So that way, at least it's still staying contained and where it should be going at the end of construction. So two reasons why I kind of like that idea best. One, it puts all the sediment where it should be, and it's going to have to get cleaned out anyway, just based on the size of it as is currently standing. So it makes the most sense to me. But I am, by all means, I'm in complete agreement. When I look at this, that's going to fall and that's going to fail at some point, and that is very close to the wetland buffer zone. We would not want to see that kind of sediment released into the buffer.
And so hearing you say that, I think would it be possible to do both, where we have the trench going, but also excavate this out just in case,
Yeah.
just so that we can have that free and clear, in case anything
Yeah, absolutely.
gets back down into it? That's
Absolutely.
just
The,
my
oops, sorry.
ask. Sorry, that's just my, I don't know if that's something we could do, but yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Absolutely, Jenny. You're completely right there. The only thing I always like to hazard people is it comes down to how they want to go about removing the sediment, right? Because sometimes you can do more harm than good. Say, for example, he brings his machine out there, right? And he scrapes it out. Because the silt fence are towed in underneath, sometimes you can kind of create voids so that you might actually have some undermining happening. I've seen other people do like, some shoveling, if you will, so it's not as disruptive as like having a full bucket kind of cleaning it out. So I would say, yes, you can do both. I would recommend doing both. It just comes down to method, if you will. Sometimes it can open up more of a, for lack of a better term, a can of worms, but I can tell the applicant, hey, conservation would like to see this both done. We get the diversion trench in, so that way things are kind of mitigated. And then also maybe like hand tooling with shovels to kind of clean out some of that sediment. Because just based on it, the photo, like you can kind of see a little bit of that straw wattle there. So my guess is that's probably about 8 inches or so, depending on what type of compost stock they use. Yeah, kind of underneath that cardboard. Those typically can be anywhere between 6 to 12 inches, depending on which side they use. I honestly don't recall what the plan's called for off the top of my head, but kind of give you a good sense of a depth of sediment, if you will.
Okay. Okay, that's all that I had for
And so
that.
Daniel, you'll get the rest of Sophie's feedback taken care of and addressed.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from other members of the commission? I'm not seeing any. I don't see any members of the public on either. So do we want to entertain a motion to approve this? Yes, no, maybe.
Well, I
What
would make a
Dan-
motion to approve this as a de minimis change.
Thank you, Rich.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so roll call vote, Jenny,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Pete,
I,
and I for myself. Daniel, thanks for answering all of our questions and going through all that stuff.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you guys very much. Have a good rest of the night.
Daniel, before you go, when
Yep.
all of those corrective actions are done, would you send a note to Sophie via email?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Okay, I don't think we have any updates since Sophie's not here. We're not going to talk a lot about violations, but I did want to point out 390 Howard Street. Last time I walked out on the property, which is, I don't know, probably January, the new delineations had been flagged. We still, I don't think, have the survey located wetland drawings. But we did go out, Jenny and I did go out and look at the new flagged wetlands, and there was a lot of erosion happening with material moving into those wetlands. And so I do think that is something that we need to try to get Kevin O'Brien into a meeting to discuss and to ensure that gets addressed. Just to make certain that everybody has visibility on that. Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I would recommend, seeing as how we have a ticking clock on the application before us, that we treat that as a separate issue and notify them separately and have a separate meeting and hearing schedule for that violations.
I agree, Rich. That's an excellent suggestion.
So I would recommend to have Sophie notify him separately of the known violations and come up with a specific hearing. so that we don't get them confused. Thank you.
Excellent suggestion, Rich. Thank you. Okay, moving along, new business. Haven't had anything come up in the past 24 hours. We have discussed and at the last meeting being more diligent about peer review and having that happen more often. We do have that provision in our bylaws that allows us to engage peer review, and we should be engaging peer review anytime we have a question at all about the delineation. And what we had talked about last time is estimating some hours, annual hours, so that the office can actually raise a quote for horizontal engineering type of work, so that she's working with the same peer reviewer, and the conservation office would award that award those bids annually, so that Sophie has some continuity, so that we have some continuity. So I think the question that I will be having and would look for feedback on is the best way of estimating what those hours might be. If anybody's got any ideas now, throw them out to me. I'd certainly welcome the advice. And if not, I'll probably reach out to you, Rich, and maybe Bob offline, just to get some criteria that I can use to help the office scope that work. Okay, no comments. We'll move right along. April Earth Day events. So you know, those of us that are working on that are super busy with day jobs and also helping with the various things that have to happen with the Conservation Commission. So it's going to be a very, very truncated April Earth Day event this year. We do have the pollinator habitat signed up for the 12th of April. And we also have the National Honor Society has a list of conservation land improvements that have long been on our wish list that they're going to look at and come back and hopefully raise their hand on doing. And that will probably be about it, unless we just have some walk-on people that want to do things. Mike.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just want to do a shout out to Lakeview Nursery, who donated compost, potting mix, and clean pots.
That's awesome.
Yes, for the pollinator habitat, which is something they wanted to have to make their Earth Day a success. So Lakeview Nurseries came through for them today. So I just wanted to give them a shout out for that. And
that is really great to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they have about 5 people so far scheduled volunteer to do projects on Earth Day, and I guess they may have more projects than they have people. They may extend their Earth Day to April 22nd. So
that would be plenty fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to try to raise a little bit of ruckus on the various Lunenburg town social media outlets too, and engage maybe Jenny and Chris to the extent they're willing to help me with that, so that we can maybe get a few more people in to see that wonderful pollinator habitat. Right? That'd be great.
Oh, that would be great. Now, how many volunteers do you have for conservation Earth Day projects? Do you have
Zero. We
Zero.
haven't socialized anything.
Okay.
It's been a warm thought that nobody's had any cycles to execute on.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. In
I was
fact,
asked by
I'm
the conservation, by the pollinator habitat, if you had people, not that they needed any people, they were just curious to see if we had any volunteers. Somehow I thought the last meeting you had a handle on a few volunteers, but maybe I miss.
No,
heard
it was
that.
just the National Honor Society that, the high school, people that I was talking
okay.
to. Yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
All right.
And they tend to do like one project so that they're, I guess, easier to carouse the kids, right? If it's one project, they all have to show up at a certain time. They all get out on the trail at a certain time. And they've been great supporters of us over the years. But no, we've all thought about doing a lot of things, but don't have any cycles. In fact, I think I'm maybe 6 weeks late on doing our Conservation Commission annual report. Because when I'm not here lately, I've been working until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So yeah. Anyway. Okay, and of course, if there's anything we can do to help pollinator habitat, since they're one of our primary Earth Day projects this year, let us know.
I did have something else for the pollinator habitat. It's not related so much to Earth Day, but they want to put in their native plant invoice in today. If we could do that, is that something we could do, or you want me to wait until we talk about 123 Hollis Road? Does that make a difference?
Let's go ahead and talk about it. I was going to talk about a Mackey PO associated with April Earth Days as well. So yeah, what's the native plant proposal?
The proposal includes a bunch of plants and or trees that the habitat want to put in place into the habitat this season. And they put in, I already submitted the invoice, or the proposal, not the invoice, but the proposal to Sophie Darrow. But it's in the amount of $433.24. And I would just like to see if we could approve that amount to be used from the Haas Fund for that endeavor. It's their initial planting that they're going to do this season. There might be another smaller proposal coming up later, but it is not ready to be voted on, but this one is, and it's for the Native Plant Trust. It was originally going to be $589.63, but they managed to get a 25% discount on their
Nice.
this year, so it reduced it to $433.24.
Very good. I would make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Well, that was me for the motion and Chris for the second, I guess. I didn't hear if it was you or Chris, Jenny.
I think
Roll
it was
call
Chris.
vote. Pete,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. And I probably should have said this out loud for the benefit of particularly you, Pete. There's a lot of stuff that comes at you when you're a new commissioner, but the Haas account is actually funded by our property on Hollis Road, and we have it's well funded, shall we say. So that's a pretty nominal amount, so that's good.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and everyone
Thank you,
else.
Mike. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Do wonderful work over there. So the other thing that I wanted to propose in terms of financials was increase in the Mackey PO. Now the Mackey PO is funded out of the Timber Rights Fund. The Timber Rights Fund currently has $30,874 in it. The Mackey current PO has a remaining balance of $1,720. With the Bob, has been doing, he's still very active in our conservation land improvements, and he did the estimates on the projects that we sent to the NHS to do for us. Those projects are some boardwalks in Table Rock to provide some protection around some wetlands that need to be crossed. And this is to support, which is also a later announcement, the new parking area that we just got plans approved on. And then catwalks in the Cowdery. In the Cowdery area, we have on the Blue Trail an already existing Mulpus Brook crossing. That bridge needs a lot of work, and then on either side, it tends to get kind of wet during certain seasons, and so we want to put a series of catwalks in there. It helps to manage the traffic flow. It keeps people from walking around and widening the trail where we really want it to be a single track kind of trail. And anyway, Bob did those estimates for us. He was actually being kind of conservative with a proposal to add $1,000 to the Mackey PO. I actually would like to add $2,000 to the Mackey PO. It keeps us from having to come back more often and add monies to that. And we do have a lot of projects kind of currently going on in the conservation areas. Even if the NHS doesn't do both of those projects, one of the other things that I've been talking to Bob about is in the Reno area where they've done all that logging. We'd like to get some type of at least initial work in there so that if a member of the public just drives into the area right now, it might just sink into the mud. And we'd like to do something to, just make it a little bit more stable. So we could use those funds there as well. Anyway, so I am looking for a motion to approve $2,000 on the existing Mackey PO.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I heard Jenny and Rich Birch. Thank you for that. Roll call vote. Pete,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. If all goes well, Pete, we're gonna have a system of trails that you can go out your back door and go enjoy a whole other series of trails and conservation commission properties with.
Well, I don't want it to become a conflict of interest.
Well, all this was put in motion before you joined the Conservation Commission.
Gary, I do have a question about.
Yeah,
You mentioned increasing it on the Mackey PO, but how do they have the materials to fix problems that you described about cars sinking in the mud? I would think that's more of a Powell type of material. So what did you mean by that?
well, to be fair, I think I was kind of bundling that in with an Eagle Scout project to do a kiosk and kind of put
Yeah.
information of where people could park, right?
Mhm.
So I wasn't really, gravel would stabilize it, but information would also tell people where to park for now so that they're not
Gotcha.
sinking in the mud.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question. Keep me honest.
Hey,
Yeah.
just one little thing that I noticed the other day. We have a piece of property, Chase Road Conservation Area. And then there's the Northfield Road Park. This is like a little bit lengthy, maybe. No, actually, I think it's the Chase Road Conservation Area actually touch Northfield Park.
It does actually, and
Yeah,
on some
it
maps,
does.
it's on some maps it's called Reno property, on some it's called
Well,
Chase Road.
I don't want to.
It's the same property though.
Yeah. And I think we're going through town-owned property 801 to actually get to Reno, which might not be conservation land as of yet. I don't really know.
Yeah, I think there's at the end of that road, that road to the water tower, there is a little strip of land that is not town owned.
Well, there's a finger that touches. There's two little issues, but forget what I just mentioned a minute ago. I noticed on the interactive property map that Powell actually cut trees on town-owned land that's part of the Chase Road Conservation Area. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, if you look at it, it's, hang on,
I will go and look at that.
give you an idea of the acreage that they cut. It's probably not acreage. Just looking at it.
And you are referring to something that happened in past, kind of
Couple of
trailing-
years, yeah.
couple of
About
years ago.
2 acres.
Interesting.
Look at it on Google Earth. I mean.
I will. Now, there's
uh,
a little bump out, and I don't think I can call it up really quickly. There's like a little bump out that,
Yep.
they
It's
donated to
like
us that,
one piece goes over the other. Well,
yeah, there's that little bump out that actually allows us to connect from the Chase Road, AKA Reno, to Northfield, what's it called? Northfield Park?
Yeah, Northfield Park. So I think
Yeah.
they did cut trees there, which is kind of a little bit of a thing. But the longer issue is that, if somebody starts, I don't know what the hell they're going to do with that property. That somebody doesn't get the idea that they know where those property boundaries are, because they made a mistake when they did the clear cutting. They went and cut, like I say, according to what I'm looking at, 1.42 acres.
Oh, wow. That's a big miss. Yeah. Thanks for the pickup on that. It's for long enough ago that we may not be able to action it, but I will look into it. Thanks, Pete. Moving along, because I know it's getting late. 950 Chase Road, which was an encroachment of a kind of a barn or a detached garage that was fully on the Lordstown Forest. That encroachment has been removed. And I went out last week. Yeah, last week twice, and ensured the shed was removed, all the debris was removed, all the personally owned property in and around the shed, and all the way up along that shared property line had been removed. The owners there became very motivated to work with us when they were selling their house, and needed to clear the lien on it. So that is all done. So that's very good.
That was quick, actually.
It's amazing what can happen when people are motivated.
Yeah, jeez.
Okay, moving along, grants update. We have the Conservation Commission has a grant that's open with Mass Trails for three areas to improve or create parking. The Table Rock property permit was actually granted a week ago Monday. And then the Reno parcel was also, that parking plan was also approved. I think that one may have been approved previously. So the idea in raising that grant was to get the plans approved so that then we had approved plans in hand and then could apply for future grants to get some funding to actually put those parking areas in there properly. The third area is a much more extensive project. It's down at the Cowdrey area. There's some frontage and access off of Townsend Harbor Road that kind of is a historical cart path that goes through the wetland to an isolated peninsula that years ago the Snowmobile Club actually built an ADA accessible wildlife viewing platform there. But it's been, inaccessible. And that's one thing that I think the conservation land right now is not very accessible to anybody that's mobility limited. And it's a shame that we have that nice viewing platform down there that nobody can access. So the improving that area and creating a plan to get access for people that are mobility limited, as well as everybody else that's a resident. That is the next thing that is being addressed by our consultant as a part of that grant. But that's gonna be conservation permits. It's gonna be MISA and NHESP permits and applications. So that's going to be a lot more extensive. Anyway, some progress there. Yeah, we already talked about the conservation land improvements with the, in association with Earth Days. Hollis Road, anything else that you wanted to update us there, Mike, on?
Yes, yes, Madam Chair. I met with the DPW crew today, and I had a chance to kind of clean out the basement of some metal debris. There was quite a few expansion tanks from former heating system repairs and some other metal that I guess the town has a metal collection. So they met with me and took all of that metal away.
Oh, excellent.
And also, they also eyed some solared invasives on the on a platform at the habitat that the volunteers have been collecting all toward the end of last season, and now the sun is totally solared those invasives so they can then be collected and just put to composting, and the DPW will be there later this week to pick that up as well.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I guess
yeah, go ahead.
in anticipation of the meeting coming up, it was supposed to be this past Monday with Chris Ruth and Michael Ray Jeffries, and it looks like it was put off until Friday. So
yes,
FYI.
and Michael Ray was kind of waiting on that inspection to come before us and propose some changes to the Hollis Road. It's actually called a leased caretaker license agreement.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that that inspection goes off as planned on Friday, and then Michael Ray can come put before us his proposed changes to that custodian license agreement.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's progress. Any updates from open space or stormwater?
Well, I'm hitting my next meeting on the 9th, so I'll probably have something for our next meeting.
Okay, very good.
Nothing to report from stormwater.
Thank you, Jenny. So are there any final comments from members of the commission? And if nobody else has a comment, I do have a little announcement. So I will be resigning as chair at the end of this month. And my intention is to, of course, stay on through the end of my term, which is the end of June. But to be here to support the next chair. And I am hoping that Jenny will raise her hand to take that on, but she may want to think about that. Certainly, if anybody else is interested in taking on chair, let us know. I think next time we meet on the 16th, we should be looking for chair nominations, vice chair nominations, and trying to vote to backfill any open positions. Okay, with that, I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Rich and Jenny. It is 9:29, and I will do a roll call vote. Pete,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rich,
All right.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. Good night, everyone.
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Night all.
Good night.